Greetings. Welcome to day 22 in the 31 Days of Tarot 2019 challenge. The question today is an interesting question, really interesting. It's asking, where is one place in the world you would love to read the tarot and why? It could be a sacred site, event, mystical shop, or anything. Well, I had to really think about this one for a little while because I'm thinking, what actually does place have to do with my readings? I do love my parlor, this room. I'm been setting this up for a while, changing it around to make it the most comfortable place for Clarence to come, and my hope is Clarence will be able to visit me here, sit at the table here with me, and I've set it up, and I'm doing a little changing now. I'll share with you in the video, in a future video when I get it all fixed up. It'll change after the changes are made, but my idea was, this is a place where Aquarius could feel comfortable. Sit with me. We're secluded, but we're not cut off from the world. We can see into the garden here, but it's a comfortable table, comfortable chairs. It smells beautiful in here because I'm always burning incense, and it's always really lovely. Usually in this room, it's protected mostly from pets, from people that don't have any business in this room. I keep the door closed. As soon as I said that, here comes Betty White in the door. For most people, they don't come in here. So I think in terms normally of reading here in my parlor would be the best place. But I don't really get to do that. I get to read from the parlor, but the client usually is not sitting at the table with me. I do most of my readings online or... But so when I got to think about it and got to have... I thought, where in the world would I choose to read? Because I do read when I'm out and about doing readings. I'm normally outside, and that's a lovely place. I love to be outside. There's a little difficulty though, because if it's a windy day, we're really have a problem. I've had that problem where you can't lay out cards in the wind. So I was really thinking about this, and I asked my husband. He knows me best, and I said, if I had any place in the world that I could read tarot, where do you think that I would read? And he gave me 3 different answers. And the first answer he gave me was New Orleans. He thought I would really, I've not been to New Orleans, but I have a lot of opinions about New Orleans, and I have a lot of romantic ideas about New Orleans, thinking it's a wonderful place that I'd like to visit. I'm very fascinated with some of the occult cultures there, the voodoo or whoever they are, and just the whole culture, the culture that is the result of so many different influences, just is very fascinating to me. So he thought maybe New Orleans, and then he thought about it longer, and he said actually he thinks maybe Edinburgh, because he knows Edinburgh is like just about my favorite city in the world. Edinburgh is purportedly one of the most haunted cities. A lot of places have stories attributed to them of ghosts that still are there occupying the city. I do love it, and those were really good answers. But he came to the third answer, and I had to stop. And he said he thinks the woods. He says, I always find magic in the woods. I think woods is... Both of us think of it as a really magical place. We lived in the woods. We grew up in the woods. We lived in the woods before we came here. And as he said that, and I started thinking about my childhood, I came upon my true answer and said, as a young girl, even before I knew him, I was really fascinated by the Romanis, we called them, in those days, we called them gypsies. I realize today the word gypsy carries a lot of baggage. The word is, some consider that to be an ethnic slur. I don't mean that in that way. I did know a young boy, a couple young boys and a couple girls who identified as being gypsies. That's what they call themselves. And they traveled all over with their family, all over the place. All over. I'm not sure where they went, but every year for a while, probably several months, they were in our hometown. And so they would come to school with us when we were there. That's how I knew them. They never were there for that terribly long, but they were there every year so that we really got to know them. I never saw where they stayed. I don't even know why it even occurred to me that they could be in a camp somewhere. A gypsy camp of somewhere. I don't believe they were. I don't know where they were. I can't even say. But of course with television and movies and things, we have wonderful ideas of what we consider to be a gypsy camp, let me call it a Romani camp. When I think of it, I think of, a thick woods, very thick woods, maybe a small clearing in the middle of the very deep woods, an encampment circling a fire, maybe their Vardos, those beautiful Vardo wagons that we see, that we all kind of want. Parked around the fire, and maybe some pots hanging on the fire, iron pots. Some people maybe spooning out some stew and hearing the music in the background. And I have a very vivid picture, and I have a lot of sensation of the camp because, in the SCA we do have a lot of times when we camp, there's a Romani. They call themselves the Romani camp. They're portraying the medieval, the Romani, the early Romanis, and as a transient people, and their interpretation of a transient people. But they do play a lot of the music. The sounds coming from the camp is really what I would imagine. And when you're there, with the stars, ablaze in the sky, and it's a beautiful night, and you can feel the cool earth, and you can smell the cool earth under you, and the heat of the fire, etc. It's like being in the world of everywhere. It's like everywhere. That's what I think of it. It's everywhere at one time is there around you. You can feel the openness, right? And I'm sort of relating my own experience, like with my camping, because we do not have a beautiful Vardo to camp in, but we do have a big pavilion, a medieval pavilion. And it's fabric, right? It's made out of fabric. And you step away from the camp and you go into your pavilion and you close your cloth door. And all of a sudden, you're in a place. It's not a place. You're in a place of nowhere, your own place. Even though that camp is out there and the music is out there and the fire's out there and all the people are out there, you have closed the door just enough that you're stepping into your own world. That's what I feel like it would be like in a Vardo. Going up the steps, and they're in the heavily draped room, with a small table with cloth over it, laid out for cards, and maybe some old china teacups, and maybe some jugs of wine or whatever. Flowers, it smells of incense, bells, hearing tinkling bells, kind of like I'm hearing today. I have a lot of wind today, so my chimes are all going off. And when you step inside there, it is a magical place. It would feel a magical place. To read cards, I think that's where you need to be. You need to be around as much energy as you can be, in my opinion. Have as much energy around you as you can, but be able to pull in, to separate yourself in a smaller space within that energy. A protected space within that energy. The protected space we're going to talk about in another video I have coming up on my channel about setting up a sacred space. But That's what I feel it does. When you go, even if you're going inside a cloth fabric door or behind a curtain, you are making a space that is your space. And the energies that are there are the energies that you're invited into your space. So I think, to me, that it would be, that would be my most favorite space. And I wore my most beautiful, wore my beautiful, my favorite shawl. You can't see it very well, but it's velvet. It's velvet. Embossed velvet. Lovely fringe. It's my favorite. It's my favorite. But it makes me feel kind of, like I could read your cards. We all have that. I think we all have that little vibe going on there, that gypsy vibe or that Romani, let's say Romani vibe going on there a little bit. But really, it's not, I mean it with sincerity. I really do. I want you to think about it. When you set up your cards, where do you go? Where do you go? Not many of us just plunk ourselves down on Main Street and throw the cards down on the sidewalk and read. I mean, some of us might, but I'm not sure what kind of energies you're reading there. You've got a lot of complications. So we want to set ourselves a little bit apart, but yet within. If that's something that if I've described that very well, I don't know if I have. But if you have a question, please check back on my channel, and maybe a week I'm going to have, sometime next week I'll have that video up, and maybe you'll understand a little more what I'm talking about. Anyway, thank you for watching. As always, I'm Rebecca, and I wish you blessings.